Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Csahiouni Mazloom. And we are here today with an incredible guest, CEO of Swoop Financial Bank, serial entrepreneur, and old boss and mentor of mine, George Csahiouni. How's it going today, George?
It's going fantastic, Shaheen. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. So George, for those out there that don't know much about you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I've been in the Swoop or the fintech space for a little over 15 years. Basically, we do payments, point of sale technology, as well as point of sale finance. We work directly with the market with regards to the SMB market, small to medium sized businesses, typically, blue collar business owners, right? So like John at John's Pizza or Susie at Susie's Nail Salon, people on the front lines really kind of fighting that good fight. And, we help them to be able to accept payments and or streamline their processes of their businesses using technology, right? Technology for their business.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously technology is amazing when it works. And, we see all the time of, I was actually just talking to a business owner the other day. They got a new point of sale or something, some ad they saw on Facebook, and it's been hell. It keeps going down. The other day they had to let almost $50,000 worth of customers leave without being able to pay them. So, what you do and what we do as far as technology and payment processing is so important nowadays, especially like you said, with those small business owners on the front lines fighting the good fight. So, that brings me kind of to my first question, the financial problems in the U.S. today. How bad is it right now, and how much worse do you think it's going to get?
Yeah. So, I think there's both positive and negatives to the marketplace, right? Anytime there's the market's volatile, it also creates a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
I think it depends on which segment of the market you're really talking to. For me, speaking to the market that I know the best, which is, that kind of business, that retail business market, I think, business owners are really, struggling currently to, fight the cost or the rising cost of inflation, really for their cost of goods sold. For example, we work with a lot of restaurant owners all across the country, and they're having to either cut portion sizes, right, or find innovative ways to cut costs, and or just flat out raise prices, right? So whether it be the restaurant business or retail, I think we're really just in the middle of it, and I think that the next 12 to 24 months is going to be very telling for the marketplace, and I think we're going to see a good fight with regards to that market, in the next near future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if you agree, but it seems like consumers aren't really spending less, but businesses are just not profiting as much. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that, at least in the last 12 months or so. I would say that consumers are starting, to spend less. I've read some data recently with regards to the average, being in the payment space. We see that data, right, from the transactions. The average, consumer, the average sales price or ticket per sale is starting to go down. We're also starting to see an increase in cash, right? The consumers are becoming more and more aware of, the cost of using credit and debit cards or spending, things of that nature. So I think you're going to start to see more and more folks, start to be more aware of with regards to the cost of goods or even travel or, the cost of food and going out and dining and that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. When you go to the, it seems like every month there's some kind of product that's like overly priced, right? Like a few months ago we had eggs. Eggs were hard to find, and if you could find them, they were like $2 a piece. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Now, if I'm right, you owned a restaurant for a little bit, right? Or do you still own restaurants?
Yeah, so my family's been in the restaurant business for a long time, but I recently had and sold recently a restaurant called Super G's Cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of familiarity with the clients that we work with. That was a small, call it 2,500 square foot restaurant that did fast casual type of food, right? So burgers, sandwiches and that type of thing. And
Right.
Yeah, and we got caught in the midst of COVID as well, and had to fight that fight that was very common for a lot of the restaurant
Yeah.
tours that are out there. And I would say it was a struggle at the very least.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like you, it was like that time, but I think that's really what makes you guys so good over there at Swoop Finance is you understand that. You understand what all these business, the business owners that have been around for at least 2 years, you understand what they went through during COVID. And I think that really helps you, understand and be able to not just market to them, but be able to help them moving forward.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the key there is really just being able to speak their language, right? So
yeah.
understanding the cost of goods sold, understanding what the biggest pain points are for those business owners has been key for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like that's with it, with any business, right? Like your business, any business, anybody out there that's looking to start a business or that's in business, they have to solve a problem, right? If you're not solving a problem, you probably don't have a very viable business, right? So,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, it's all about solving that problem and being able to, explain to that customer why you are the man for the job, right? How does this solve your problem? Why this is the best solution to your problem. And I think that's where a lot of people starting in business don't realize that they're going after the sale and they're focusing on, bringing money in, but they're not focusing on, hey, what problem am I solving and how am I going to solve that problem?
Sure, sure. I think for business owners, especially in that small to medium business space, that retail business space, they're wearing a lot of different hats, right?
Yeah.
So, John at John's Pizza, for example, he's oftentimes making pizzas.
Yeah.
Bob at Bob's Automotive, he might be turning wrenches and changing the tire, right? So, in addition to having to do all of that, they're still worried about the accounting, right? They're still trying to hire employees. They're still having to manage their inventory. So, what we do on a day-to-day basis is try to make that blue collar business owner's job, much more palatable, take away that brain damage that's often part of just trying to, operate that whole business all by yourself. They don't
Right.
necessarily have, the resources that some of these medium to enterprise level companies have. So,
Yeah.
we really feel like not only are we, selling them a product, if you will, but we are helping them to do better in business. Right.
Right. Now, what do you think is a key attribute to figuring out the best solution for a company? I know, like with us, when we're trying to figure out the right technology, whether it be point of sale or handheld terminal or whatever it is for a business, we ask a ton of questions, right? We want to find out what exactly they want to do with it. What are they doing with their current equipment? What do they wish that their current equipment could do, and things like that? I think asking as many questions as possible and having as much information is really the key to figuring out how we're going to help them with the right solution. Do you agree? Or is there anything more that you guys do to really make sure that you're setting them up with the technology that's going to help them the most?
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I mean, having a good discovery call with a business owner to understand like what they're either trying to accomplish or what those pain points are is key. It usually, in our experience, comes down to like one or two main things, right? That is really something that's hindering their performance, or if they could cure, one or two items that usually revolve around time or
Right.
cost, right? Or, relieving them of pressure of too many tasks, right?
Right.
It usually comes down to one or two things such as that. And if you're able to identify that, it gets pretty straightforward with regards to how to help them solve the problem. These days, I would say the focus for us is, trying to help them with automation, right?
Yeah. Oh
Anything
yeah.
that automates a laborious task, that they needed man hours for. Because again, going back to the cost of goods, the cost of employment's up as well. Right.
Yeah.
So paying for employees or whatnot. So they can't hire as many people and things cost more. So they got to use technology really to start solving those problems. And we
Right.
think automation is a big part of that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like we do this every day, right? We're always around these point of sales. We're watching the news and we're finding out, new
Sure.
features that are available to businesses and things like that. And it always blows my mind when we introduce a product and we let these business owners know, hey, it can actually do this for you and do that for you and do the other.
Right.
And they're like, I didn't even know stuff like that existed.
Right.
And a lot of these small business owners don't. So they're taking on, like you said, all these different hats when a lot of that stuff could be automated with just having the right point of sale system
Sure.
that can replace a couple employees, that can give you 10 hours back into your work week and
Sure.
give the manager more time with their family as well, which creates a
Right.
happier manager, and the
Right.
employees can make more money, get bigger tips because they're paying
Sure.
closer attention to everything. It's like it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
um
I had a merchant recently that had an inventory problem, and this is very common, especially in Middle America, where as a restaurant owner, and you start to think about all the inventory they really have, which is everything from the paper product, like the knives, the forks, the napkins, the ketchup, the mustard, all the way up to the actual hardcore inventory, which is the meat product and the produce.
right
And they would spend anywhere from 5 to 7 hours a week manually with a clipboard and paper, going, doing the counts, right? Going from item
wow
to item. And, we were able to install a product there that automated that. So every time they sold a product, it automatically calculated into their
right
inventory. And then therefore, it saved them
And
about.
that's just that's a very simple thing that pretty much every piece of technology can do now.
Right,
And
right.
that got them an extra 8 hours.
Sure. Yeah. Per week, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we did a point of sale similar. It was actually for like a bagel place, right? So kind of fast food, right? And after the first week, he's like, "Dude, I got almost a full day back into my life this
Sure.
past week, and that was just week one using the new point of sale system."
Right.
And it's even more than that now. I think it's incredible what some of this technology can do, and the upfront cost is so much less than it used to be because of companies like you guys. Like you
Sure.
charge what, like a low monthly fee rather than having to fork out 10, 15, 20 grand on all this equipment, right?
Sure.
Like, is that what you guys focus on, is setting
So
like a subscription model?
yeah, so it's a subscription model. So what we do is we make it easy for the business owner or the merchant to not, buy a product. Number one, where the technology is changing all of the time, right? So they
Right.
might need to update that technology, and or it's a larger auto cost pocket expense for that business owner. What they could put that back into marketing to gather new customers, or they could do it. They could put that money back into inventory to buy more inventory, or things that are going to be revenue focused, right? Not that it's not all important, but if you own, let's just say, a retail business or a small restaurant that has 5 or 6 different stations, maybe a server station, a couple of registers or whatnot. Yeah, like you mentioned, it might be $15,000 or $20,000 in out-of-pocket expense.
Right.
And then in 3 or 4 years, that technology might be outdated, right? Because it's moving so fast. So
Yeah.
basically, what we do is we give business owners the opportunity to have to pay no upfront cost and to be able to essentially just finance either the software or the technology, or even the build out, if there is any like wiring or cabling or any type of product or work that needs to be done to install that
Right.
technology. And we do that for a low monthly payment that they can write off at the end of the year as well.
Right, right. Yeah, that's great. I mean, like you said, technology is constantly changing. I mean, what recently you've got, everybody's all about the AI, right? Like we did a podcast a couple weeks ago all about AI and Chat GPT and all the different features that can do. And I think we're just getting started as far as AI goes.
Sure.
The opportunities are endless, and you're gonna start. I think we're gonna start seeing that a lot more in some of these point of sale systems, and some of the features that small business owners are going to be using. And like you said, I mean, if they got to fork out 10, 15 grand every couple of years to stay up with the technology, it just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to pay a smaller monthly fee,
Sure.
and have access to the best technology at all times. Um, so kind of switching gears a little bit, so for the business owners, what are some things that business owners should be doing right now to kind of shield themselves from hardships? Because as we see in the news, the economy is getting worse. We're in the midst of a recession. Cost of everything's going up. Things are gonna get harder. What are some things that business owners should start doing now to kind of shield themselves and make those punches a little bit easier to bear with?
Yeah, well, I think they really just got to focus, and kind of the theme here is to focus on accelerating, the technology needs. If they've been waiting at all or moving a little slow to add that extra point of sale system or any, type of an AI. Like, for example, some of the new point of sale technology right now is already embedded with AI where, at the push of a button or even verbally, a business owner could say, send out this text or create an article for me and send this text out to my client profiles of, my 1,000 client database and then
Right.
push it out for marketing. I just think that if you're a business owner and you're not accelerating your need or you're to add technology, you might not be able to
Yeah.
compete in the very near future, and you might start getting squeezed out into the marketplace. The other thing, though, while using the technology, I think that's important, again, for laborious types of tasks or to be able to, give you a wider bandwidth for labor or for reach to the marketplace is I think you also still need a personal touch. So as you add
Yeah.
more and more technology, the more, everything is becoming more and more service based. So, if you're reaching out to clients, whether at a distance or face to face, if you're a retail type of a business, going back to hospitality is really, really important, right? Shaking people's hands, really sitting down with them and getting to know who your client is, kind of like how we are even, we've done business, for a while now in the past, but having these types of insightful, more in-depth conversations with your clients.
Yeah.
I think as technology becomes more and more broad based, it becomes a little generic, right? So,
Right.
the creative part of, us is that human touch and making sure that, business owners are still finding ways to creatively add that to their business models.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You touched on a very valid point is I think a lot of the times, as people, we procrastinate on things all the time, right? We know there's things we should be doing, but there's certain things that we just kind of push off.
Right.
Like I noticed a lot of businesses out there still don't have a loyalty program, right?
Sure.
I remember when I first got into credit card processing 15 years ago, prior, a little bit after you actually.
Sure.
And that was when loyalty programs were first starting to really come about, where you could have, points on a card or, the old school version was, the punch cards and things like
Sure.
that, getting people to come back to your establishment rather than going to the pizza place that may be a little bit closer to their house, or maybe they have a little bit cheaper deal that day or whatever it may be, right? There's still so many businesses out there that still have never set up a loyalty program. They've thought about it. They keep pushing it off. It's probably been on their to-do list for 3 years now. And, I think, now is just the time that they've got to start pulling the trigger on all these different technology things that they've been holding off on, because you're right. They will get crushed by the competition. They won't be able to keep up. Right.
What?
It's just, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a few things on that, which you brought up a couple of great points also with the loyalty. Yeah, so it's a very simple fix. And I think a lot of the reasons why there's a delay is because, again, just using John at John's Pizza as an example, their think a lot of times is because it's either new to them or they're maybe a little scared to change, right? Is that, it's going to be complicated.
Right.
That the adoption of this new product or new technology means a ton of training for their teams, or they might be scared of it because, maybe they're not super tech savvy, but it's
Right.
really not. Organizations like yourself or organizations like, ourselves,
Right. We'll do it for them.
Right. Yeah, we plug it in, and it really kind of comes plug and play, right? And,
Yeah.
and then you push the button, and it's pretty automated from there. If you can do the same type of transaction that you're currently doing, it's just layered in there to make it really easy. So, just to address that fear of change, that I
Yeah.
think is very common.
Yeah, and it's very common with anybody, not just business owners. Just
Right,
us as people, we fear change, right?
right,
What we don't know, we're like, oh, it could be really hard. It could be amazing though. Like
right,
that's the thing with any decision, right? Like all the big billionaires out there, they say taking action and making the decision right away is the most important thing, right? Even if it's the wrong decision, just making the decision to just figure it out, right? Just do
yeah.
it. Just make that decision, move forward with it. If it doesn't work, great, whatever, move on, right? But making that decision, not making a decision is a decision in itself, and it's usually the wrong decision.
Sure. I would agree with that completely. Yeah, and at least right? At least if you made the wrong decision, that you made it
Right.
quickly, and you quickly move on to the right decision, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's there's so many business owners out there that are making the right decision and making those decisions on a regular basis. They're getting that new technology. They're replacing an employee with a self-serve kiosk.
Sure.
They're taking advantage of ERC, or they have a couple lines of credit for when things get tough. And they, so if they're not doing that, who's going to come out on top? Who's going to be surviving at the end of the day, right? Like we saw it during COVID, right?
Right.
There was companies out there that just gave up, threw in the towel, sold for pennies on the dollar to some other guy that decided to do curbside pickup and delivering alcohol and, all those different things that business owners, or restaurant owners particularly adapted during COVID, and some did really well, right? And others just kind of threw in the towel. They're like, I'm not down with this change. I don't want to do it, whatever. And I think the same happens with, the way the economy is right now. You're either going to be the competitor that makes those decisions, that puts in the new technology, that, that survives, or you're going to be the one that that your competitors are buying up for pennies on
Right.
the dollar and not going to be around to tell the story, And I think it's a shame because every business that's operating right now, right, especially if they've been in business a year, like you've already made it through the hard part. Like,
Right.
you can do it. You're
Right.
just not making those decisions to move your business along with the times. And like you said earlier, it's
Well,
forever changing.
yeah, I think what happened too with COVID specifically, because that's a very unique few years, right?
Yeah.
I think, number one, like you just mentioned, the tenacity of business owners that kind of fought through it, the ones that did put up the good fight and they kind
Right.
of made it to the other side. They're still there. And maybe some of them even accelerated their business. But for many business owners, they had a tough time, but they're there. And I think the question now becomes, well, what's next? Because
Right.
2 to 3 years, we're so focused on like, how do I just get through this?
How do I survive?
Right. It was almost like and everything's changed. The technology's accelerated, costs are different,
Yeah.
inflation and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, how do I maneuver through this, this post-COVID phase
Right.
where, it's like, okay, how do I
We've
thrive?
survived, and now how do we thrive?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I think, and I think it's created a lot of new opportunities, to be honest.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that new opportunity, again, just to retouch on it, is having that human touch, that human component where, if you go around to some of these folks right now, we're located here in Chicago, right? And, it's a huge hospitality type of a city. And,
Right.
but they've taken it to whole new levels, right? Whether it's retail or, restaurant based or whatever the case may be, and it's just gone to whole new levels of, really servicing clients. It's really about like concierge almost type of servicing
Yeah.
in all business aspects, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For a while, especially during COVID, it was how do we keep people away? Now it's okay. How do we get that personal touch back? Like you've got to have it. You have to have it for sure. They want to see you. They want to talk to you, right? Like just a simple phone call doesn't get it done anymore. Right.
Sure.
Like that's the reason why we do these podcasts and I put out these videos every day. Like I
Sure.
want people to know us, to see us, to see where we're coming from, see our passion. Like you can't do that from a simple email or phone call. People try to take the easy way out and try to close deals over email or text or whatever. And it just doesn't work anymore. People want that
Agreed.
personal touch.
Yeah,
That
they want to know who
concierge
you
service.
are, right?
Yeah.
They want to know who you are. They want to know that you're a good person, that you're selling through honesty, that you're convicted, you believe in your products
Yeah.
as much as they do, because that's what they're going through also. I would also say, just to add to that, not to get too far sidetracked, but, I think business owners are kind of tired of getting beat up all the time, especially in that
100%.
small to medium sized market, where they have to fight the insurance companies, they got to fight the landlords, they got to fight the finance companies, and a lot of times even the point of sale and payments companies. So,
Yeah.
I think it's important, I know you're the same where we're pushing out that message where, it's very transparent type of programs.
Yeah.
It's easy to use and it's simple and it's really there to help them, not to hurt them in any way. And I think
Exactly.
that's,
100%. Yeah. I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, with business to business. The reason why a lot of these business to business industries have such a bad rep is because they have what a lot of these sales companies do is they take advantage of what a business owner doesn't know, right? Like you were touching on earlier, most small business owners wear a ton of different hats. Your guy that starts the mechanic shop knows how to fix cars. He doesn't know about insurance. He doesn't know about rent.
Right.
He doesn't know about payment processing and point of sale systems and all these things. And so in the past years, businesses have taken advantage of that and overcharged people and set them up with things that don't make sense for them and all these different things. And so now there's companies like what you have and what we have that's really helping them and making them understand and training them and doing everything for them and really educating them on
Sure.
these different products so they truly understand. Like I tell my sales guys every day, you're not sales guys, you're consultants. You just
Right.
give them enough information for them to make an educated decision. You don't ever need to push them into a decision.
I agree with that completely. I mean, it's really, I think you touched on the key word there was like, there's definitely an educational component to
Oh
it, right?
yeah,
Things change. Yeah, that's where we really step in as being an industry type of an expert and kind of going over different options for business owners. So, yeah, we're for the merchant for sure, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for them.
absolutely. So now businesses have gotten through surviving COVID. Now it's time to thrive. When it comes to scaling a business, what is the best piece of advice you can give to somebody that's now past, they've survived COVID. Now they're ready to start thriving and scaling their business. You've done this a few times with different companies. Like what is the best piece of advice you can give for somebody that's ready to scale?
Sure. I say so. Number one, double down what you're good at. Double down on what you're good at. Whatever your X factor is, or that unique offering that you offer. You're the best cheeseburger in all of your area, or you're the most well expertised mechanic, whatever the case may be. Double down on your core value or product or system, and
Right.
then really drive home on that. I think a lot of times folks these days are really really spread all over the place,
Yeah.
right? And that's causing confusion and inconsistency to
A
both
hundred
their
percent.
market, right? To their market, as well as to maybe even their own internal employees and to their teams. So,
Yeah.
I think everything is becoming a little bit more niche in the marketplace. And, I think in the past, a lot of times it was like, well, here I'm offering product X, but I can sell ancillary product Y and Z along with that because I think I can. But really what it does is it destables your core offering. And I would
Yeah.
say, instead of, I would say go deeper, much deeper into the marketplace on your core offering, and then go
Right.
much wider, right? Much wider in your marketing, right? So do
Yeah.
what you do good or best at, and then spread that to as many people as you can.
Right. Right. I like that. Yeah. I think, for a while there was a lot of, people say diversify, diversify, diversify.
Sure.
And I've seen business owners do that. And they'll have a tattoo shop and then they'll have a clothing company and then they'll have a fishing company. I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like
There's a
you've got
lot.
all these companies, none of them are doing great, they're
Right.
all doing okay, but it's like if you just have one company that's doing great, it's going to be way better than five companies that are doing okay.
Well, sure. And I would say this just to talk about scale, get a company that does really, really well at something and then get it stabilized where
Yeah.
it's cash flow secure. It is growing at an incremental gain consistently, right? There's consistent numbers going forward.
Right.
And then add that second layer or that other business
Right.
and whatnot. But instead of trying to diversify early, I think
Yeah, I
diversify.
think a lot of people do that way too early, 100%.
Sure. Sure. So I think timing is important as well. How
Yeah.
how mature has your business become, before you actually make that move?
Right. Absolutely, man. So for those people out there that are either thinking of starting a business or they just started a business in the economy and the way it is, what's some advice that you can give to those people to make it through this tough economy and make it out the other side? Most businesses fail in the first year, right? Like,
Sure.
what advice do you have for those people to make sure that they make it through that first year and keep going?
Yeah. So I would suggest, while ideas are fantastic, new ideas and new innovations, and not to hinder anybody's ability to be creative. I would suggest if you have a new idea or you want to get involved into a specific space, that you prove the model first. And you don't necessarily have to prove the model by taking all the arrows in your back, right? Like
Right.
usually, business has been around for a long time. Somebody has done it before or has done a vein or a path like it before. Go do the
Right.
research, see what it looks like. What did those numbers look like? What did it take? And like, what did it really take? Not surface
Right.
level, but what were their failures first, and
Yeah.
what did they have to drive through? Because that's the type of stuff that will either make or break you when you're launching a business is the pain points of scaling and hiring and cash flow restraint, right? And
Right.
that type of stuff. So somebody's probably done it before. And I would go say, look at that proof of model that probably
Yeah.
already exists. And while your path may be different, if you choose to go ahead and take that venture, at least you have a path to follow. So number one, you're not on your own when you feel like you are. But number two, you have a direction of how to get to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree more. Like people, I feel like when they have this idea, they have this business, they want to get involved, they start buying computers and hiring people and doing all this stuff before they've even proven that this is a viable business,
Yeah, does it
figuring
work?
out, okay, what problem are people having? How am I solving it? Does it work? Are people willing to pay X for it? Whatever
Sure.
it may be. I was talking to this young guy, he's like in his early 20s, and he started a cleaning company like they do, outside of big homes and
Sure.
buildings and stuff like that, right? And he sold his first 5 customers before he even bought a single mop. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like he didn't even own a mop, and he signed up 5 clients,
Well, I
to
think
clean their houses on a regular basis before he even bought the mop. He had to make sure it worked.
that what I think. So I think that's also, and I'm glad you said that, because I didn't say by any means don't take action. So what
Right?
you just talked about was take action in the right way, which
Yeah.
also kind of starts to prove the model. Basically, he went out there, knocked on some business doors or whatever the case may be, and he started to prove the concept,
Exactly.
face to face. And I think that's
Yeah.
also important too. So that's a way to prove the concept also. But yeah,
Yeah.
you got to know that it works first,
Yeah.
that the market exists, and that the margins are going to be high enough for you to go big enough to make the type of money you want to make,
Yeah.
right?
Is it scalable to the point that you need it to be?
Right, right. A lot of times, I would say another common mistake with that thought in mind is that a lot of folks jump into a vehicle, a business, a vehicle that just doesn't have a big enough market for them to go where they
It's too
need to go.
niche.
Right,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
So
Couldn't
cool.
agree more. Absolutely, man. Well, I got nothing else, man. I love talking to you. Every time I get something good out of it, and I hope to talk to you again soon. You have a podcast yourself, right?
I sure do. I have Beyond the Pitch, and I
Beyond the
have
pitch.
Beyond the Pitch. That's a sales training, raw, straight to the point. It's for business owners or sales folks that it's really built for the payment processing space or the fintech space. But the
Right.
takeaways from it could really be used anywhere. So if you're looking for raw, straightforward, and transparent sales coaching,
Awesome.
Beyond the Pitch is a podcast that I do. And then I also have a Business Insights podcast that's Pitch to Profit, where it's kind of this type of format where we sit down
Right.
with business owners as well.
Very cool.
So they're both, you can find them on Spotify as well as on YouTube and that type of stuff.
Awesome, man. So last but not least, you do a lot of different business in the small business space. What is your offer? Every time we have an episode, we give something out to people. What is your offer for our viewers and our listeners today?
Yeah, listen, if you're a business owner, you're looking to finance some type of technology, right? Whether it be computers, you need a computer or 50 computers, or you need point of sale technology, or even if it's software, right? You need to buy or download a new CRM system or some type of SaaS, but it's really expensive, on an upfront cost or the build out, reach out to us at Swoop Finance. Reach out to us at Swoop Finance, and we'll offer you a $250 cash back on any new subscription financing product that you may want to get involved in. So we'll give you $250 back. There's no upfront costs in our programs. And we're just here to help you guys as business owners build, really.
Very cool. Awesome. And I'll make sure I put the link in the description of the podcast episode as well.
Yeah, I mean, they can reach us. They can simply reach us at info@swoopfinancing.com if they want to email us, or they can call us at 877-707-9667. But, I appreciate that, Shaheen. Let them know how to reach us, and we'll help in any way we can.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Definitely will do, man. Great talking to you. I hope to be on your podcast one day soon, and we'll talk again here in the near future.
Thanks a lot, Shaheen. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.